spinner rigging can help you track down walleye in the wake of a storm. But as Jon reveals next, there are times when jigging is even a better choice.
There he is right there, got him. Feels like a pretty good fish. All right, so let me explain to you what we've gone through here this morning. I got up this morning to some storms and some east wind. And in my mind, this is the time of year where I should be able to go out and pull spinners and catch fish. And you can see I've got a spinner rod laying there. I was spinner fishing this morning. Well, they have just not wanted to hit that spinner. Nice walleye, big fish. They have just not wanted to hit that spinner. It's just been a hard deal for me. And I put in a lot of time thinking I'll get them to bite it. It's just a question of when. I'll get them to bite it. But here's the thing, I just couldn't. They just didn't want to bite it. So here's what I did. I finally just said, okay, let's pick an area where we're seeing a lot of fish. And let's put the spinners away. Let's spot lock the boat and see if we can't get fish jigging. Even though right now is not that time of the year where you would necessarily think of jigging. So what I've done is I've pulled up on the edge of the structure. I've set up on what really looks on my map like a sweet spot. I mean, there's no doubt about it. And there's fish here. I can see them on the sonar. So with that, what I've decided to do is put the spinner on the floor, give it up. I pulled out a simple 1/4 ounce jig, put on a frozen shiner, dropped it down, and bam, that quick. And here's what that says to me. These fish, with this east wind, with the rain we got overnight, there was a little bit of thunder and lightning, not a lot, but it must have been enough to just take them out of chase mode this morning and put them into that side where things are just slower. And that seems to be the case, because as soon as I stopped, I got bit, I missed one. I sat here, I said, okay, we're just gonna grind this out. I'm gonna figure this out with the jig, because I haven't been able to get it figured out with a spinner. And that quick, that good walleye bites. One of the biggest keys when you end up in a scenario like we're in is finding that spot on the spot. Because if fish aren't on the move, if they're not roaming all over, if they're not chasing, spot on spot's really important. And all I'm on right here is a little tip that comes off this reef. I'm on hard bottom, and if I slide out just a little bit, I get into soft bottom. But I've just found a tip. I'm fishing the deepest point of the hard bottom where it slides into the soft bottom. And that's usually gonna be a really good guess at a resting area for fish. That doesn't mean that they're not feeding. What it means though is they're not aggressively feeding. If they're aggressively feeding, they're gonna be up there. They're gonna be up in that 22 feet on top of this reef. But where these fish are sitting right now, finding this little spot on the spot is key. I mean, just sitting on this little tip, all of a sudden we're able to catch fish. Oh, is that a fish? Sure it is, look at that. Set that rod down. I was just gonna grab my coffee. I set that rod in the rod holder and I looked over and it had just kind of tipped down. It just goes to show you how lethargic these fish are. I mean, holy smokes, that fish didn't even thunk it. He just grabbed it. And here's the thing, you don't get to see everything because we just don't have the time to put everything on the show. And what you didn't see this morning is how hard it's been to find fish. What a great walleye. That's perfect. I'm gonna throw him in the live well. He's gonna be the first one to head toward the dinner table. But this morning has been a battle to find fish. And I'll tell you what I attribute it to. I attribute it to the weather. I mean, and that's a great example right there. That fish, he's barely even firing. I mean, he just grabbed it. It was just sitting in front of him. So he went ahead and grabbed it. And it just goes to show you how this stuff happens sometimes. Because what you didn't see is 2 hours of me running around with spinners, missing a fish or two, but missing them because they just weren't good, solid bites. And finally just saying, okay, I gotta listen to what they're telling me. And what they seem to be telling me is I just gotta stop. I just gotta sit on top of them and see what we can do here. And that seems to be the difference, is just getting parked on top of them. And now all of a sudden we're catching some fish. Got him. Feels like a pretty good fish. Oh yeah. I think these fish are starting to come around a little bit for us. I think there's a combination of things going on. The wind's laid down a little bit. I think these fish are getting going a little bit better. It's a big fish. This is a big fish. I didn't think he was this big when I hooked him, but I'll tell you what, yeah, we'll see. He's a good walleye, nice walleye. Not that big, but a great fish. Look at that. I think these fish are getting wound up for us though. Things are starting to work. And part of that is the change we made. You know, getting rid of that spinner. Look at that, got unhooked right there. What a beautiful walleye. Holy smokes, look at the color on that fish. That fish is just beautiful. That's awesome. Let me get this fish back in the water and I'm gonna show you what we're using. Man, what a great fish. What a beautiful walleye. Get out of here. Whew, she was in a hurry. Splashed me. Let me know on the way out of here that she was in a hurry to go. Simple jig. Man, this is as easy as it gets. When you're walking through the jig aisle, I know there's a bunch of options out there, but there's a reason you should make this your option. This is the Lindy jig. What's so great about the Lindy jig is every time you take it out of the package, the line tie is clean. There's no paint in there. You don't got to dig it out. So ultimately, it's easy to tie. You got cold hands, you got wet hands, you got a windy day, no matter what it is, it's easy to tie this jig on because you don't got to dig any paint out. Number two, it's got a good quality hook, and that's a big deal to me. I mean, a fish like that right there, he can bend a hook. He ain't going to bend that one. And then it's got protruded eyes that make it look a lot more 3D, very, very lifelike. Comes in a variety of colors, variety of sizes, and man, I'll tell you what, I've been fishing Lindy jigs for a lot of years. Have not lost fish because of a hook problem. I have with other jigs, never with a Lindy jig. Same with the Lindy live bait jig. I mean, they're both built on the same platforms, just a good high quality hook with a clean line tie. I'm gonna get baited back up and get in there because I'll tell you what, there's fish on the screen and it just feels like maybe they're coming out of that funk. But we've done what we had to do. We've set ourselves in a position of saying, here's how we're gonna fish. We're gonna change how we're fishing and we're gonna sit on these fish. We're gonna give them time to see the bait. We're gonna give them time to bite. And that's, you can just feel it. That's key right now is, you know, ultimately that's what's getting us bites. As soon as I put that spinner rod down, laid it on the floor and said, not today. Switched over to jigging. All of a sudden now we can catch fish. Got him. Feels like a good fish. Wind's going down. Things are changing. You know what? This has been a hard bite today, but I'm gonna tell you something else about it. Just sticking with it, making the changes I've made has paid off. And if you do that, man, I'll tell you, this can happen to you any day going fishing. Big walleye, big walleye. Look at that one. Big fish to wrap up our day. It's just been a perseverance deal. Stick with it, stick with it, stick with it. Don't give up. Don't call it a day. Don't say they're not biting. Just, ooh, look at that. Came unhooked right in the net. Big fish. Awesome walleye. But just sticking with it, keep going, keep going, keep going, has gotten us our fish today, man. Wow, that's awesome. It hasn't been fast and furious, but you know what? We've gotten some quality fish. We got a good eater to go home. That's just awesome. Look at that. Get out of here, big girl. There she goes. Man, that's cool. Just make these adjustments under the gun. You know, if you find yourself in one of these positions where they just won't touch something, and you know it's based on weather because you can see the fish, sometimes it just takes making a change. Just parking on a spot, believing in it, sitting there and banging bait around until they'll bite it. And that's what's happened for us today. What an awesome day of fishing. That's awesome to catch a big fish any day of the week. But man, I'll tell you, I just love it when it's been a tough day and you can wrap it up with a big fish, because you know what? It makes it all worth it.